Human activity has created climate change, is what my parents told me when I was 10. And as a young human, I felt guilty. Is it my fault too? Conflicted, but I want to enjoy my life, even angry. Why did you let this happen? I thought, I still want a future too. What's a kid to do? So I went vegan. I stopped buying plastic. I made every lifestyle adjustment I could. And I saw others doing the same, making sustainability a priority. But the climate crisis continues to escalate. And that's when I realized, only more recently, no one can do it alone, because climate change isn't the result of any one of our individual actions. This was a hard lesson to learn and felt disempowering at first. But I've since discovered that addressing the climate crisis and the injustices that support it heals and connects us to one another, and that we can only fix it together. I'm sharing this personal transformation because I know how hopeless it can feel to live in the climate catastrophe around us. And I want to illustrate a few points to bring us together, rather than push us apart, creating a new roadmap for climate action. First, you are not alone. If you're tuning in for this talk, it's likely because you, along with 60% of Americans, are concerned or alarmed about global warming. From 2013 to 2018, the proportion of alarmed people more than doubled. The alarmed group in this data is also the most supportive of action to reduce carbon pollution. It's clear a growing number of people want to fix the climate crisis, but they're unclear how. We'll get to that. 39% of US adults say climate change is having at least some effect on their local community, with 22% saying it's having a great deal of effect. This majority of US adults say that the major effects they see are long periods of unusually hot weather, severe weather and storms, harm to wildlife, damage to forests, droughts or water shortages, more frequent wildfires, and rising sea levels. Maybe you've noticed these changes where you live as well. So how did we get here? Here's a graphic you've likely seen, but with a new twist. Here we have human activity that emits greenhouse gases. The burning of fossil fuels accounts for 75% of all human-caused greenhouse gases. This includes activities like electricity and heat production, emissions from buildings, transportation, and fossil fuel extraction, refining, and processing. This image is of a refinery from where I live in the Bay Area. So here are the greenhouse gases being emitted from human activity, predominantly burning fossil fuels. Carbon dioxide is the most common warming gas, along with methane and nitrous oxide. And here's our atmosphere. We can see in this real image how it is a thin layer that protects our planet from outer space. The gases are accumulating and creating a thickening of the atmosphere, whereby some of the heat that used to naturally escape is instead being trapped and warming our planet at an unprecedented rate. It's as if you were to thicken your clothes. If you keep putting on bigger and bigger coats, trapping more and more heat, then you'll eventually get way too hot. We can see this is affecting our climate through physical examples like ice caps melting. But it's not just the far-off Arctic anymore. The climate crisis has hit home with floods, hurricanes, fires, other extreme weather events, and toxic air. And finally, we have the piece that you may not have considered as part of this graphic before. Here's you and me, the people alarmed about this cycle. But what I want to show you today is that while there's cause for alarm, breaking this cycle is indeed possible. We are already connected, sharing space inside of this system. Just as we can relate to the feelings of fear and gloom, so too can we connect with each other in a process of healing and positive transformation. Here's how. The first step to breaking this climate crisis is to recognize which human activities are actually causing this issue. When I went vegan, I jumped right into doing what I thought I could, but I didn't stop to ask if this was really important. It just seemed obvious. It turns out that the idea of a personal carbon footprint, or the amount of carbon dioxide a person, product, or activity emits, was actually popularized by British Petroleum, or BP, the oil and gas company, in 2005 as a way to push responsibility down to individuals while deflecting accountability off of themselves. BP even set up a website for people to calculate their own personal carbon footprint. Maybe you've even used a site like this. I have, and it felt horrible to see how destructive my daily actions are. The same year that BP encouraged people to emit less, they produced 4 million barrels of oil and made nearly $4 billion, reaching up to 10 billion net profit in 2019. Pot, meet, kettle, soaked in a barrel of oil. Those in power with vested interests made a script to isolate us, make us feel selfish, and pit us against one another. But we can make a new one where we recognize who is really causing this issue: the executives profiting off of climate change causing activities, and the politicians permitting it to continue. And we also recognize our power together. Don't get me wrong, those personal changes can help, but together we can transform more than just our own lives. We can change our society and the planet. What does transformation look like? Let's take a minute to visualize a future we can build together. Here are some of the technologies already being used in cities right now that give me hope for the future. Outstanding bike infrastructure, renewable energy sources like wind, more renewable energy from solar, green cities with living walls that clean the air and reduce heat, geothermal energy and hydropower, and sustainable agriculture, farming, and land management. We can do it. Some projections say that current technology and low carbon measures could enable cities to cut emissions by almost 90% by 2050. And that's just with current technology. So people care, preventing climate runaway is possible, but what's missing? The final step to breaking the climate crisis cycle: we must organize. Instead of overanalyzing our own actions, which clearly won't be enough, we must organize together. Organizing works. Organizing can change our entire society. One story I particularly love is the singing revolution, where Estonia literally sang away the Soviet Union rule. An estimated 300,000 people in Estonia gathered here at the Tallinn Song Festival grounds to fly the banned Estonian flag and sing the banned patriotic songs declaring their independence. One participant remembers, "We sang all night and everybody went home early in the morning. It was emotionally so strong that the next day there were even more people. The day after, there were even more people. People took out their hidden flags. They had these flags hidden for 50 years, and now they took these out and started to wave them." The singing revolution, like most movements, didn't just happen overnight. It took 4 years of thousands of people organizing, singing, and demonstrating to finally declare their independence in 1991. When the demand for change cannot be made invisible, change is inevitable. So how will solving the climate crisis together improve our lives? I can speak from experience. Here's me, that addressing climate issues with a local action group gave me so much joy and purpose immediately. I no longer had misplaced anger, guilt, or conflict. Combining my personal actions with demands for the necessary systemic change allowed me to direct my energy toward who's polluting the most and preventing progress. I also don't have the sense of looming dread I previously felt. You know, the feeling of homework or taxes looming over you all weekend? Now that I'm participating, doing what I can, I don't worry as much. It's provided so much relief. Finally, I feel more connected with my community, and being part of a group makes climate action easier, more fun, and less isolating than some of these personal lifestyle changes. Which solutions inspire you? Conservation and animals, agriculture and farming, electrification and technology? There are so many ways to work towards a better future as there are groups building it. Simply pick a solution and join a group working on it. An easy first step is to sign up for email alerts from an environmental justice organization. In the future, we'll also enjoy the benefits under a stable climate, not the least of which is a healthy and vibrant life. Addressing climate change elicits a great reimagining of our society, one that can be more equitable, just, and sustainable than it has ever been before. When you contribute from your heart, it's possible to change the world more than you would have thought. We can be the ones that future generations talk about who turn this crisis around. I, for one, look forward to telling the stories of how much fun I had and how gratifying it was all along the way. Thank you.